Wash over us with your Spirit. The presence of the Lord is here. The presence of the Lord is here. I can feel it in the atmosphere. The presence of the Lord is here. The love of God is here. The love of God is here. I can feel it in the atmosphere. The love of God is here. The love of God. The power of God is here. The power of God is here. I can feel it in the atmosphere. The power of God. The power of God is here. God, I thank you for that love and that power and that peace and that unity, that light. God, I ask that everyone in this room today be ignited with the light of love, so that everywhere we walk, everywhere we go, we illuminate our surroundings. God, let us be a flame of the light of love. Let us start a wildfire in our world. Let us start a wildfire in our schools. Let us start a wildfire in our churches. Let us start a wildfire in our government. God, let us be the light of love that will not stop, that will spread until every single human being on this planet understands how much you love them. God, today in this atmosphere, help us know how much you love us. We thank you for that spirit, the spirit that rests inside of us, the spirit that lives inside of us, and the spirit that will live forevermore. In the name of Jesus Christ.
Judas Willie. Excellent. 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 Thank you, bud. Wow. You just brought us right in. You may be seated. And before I have Miss Jewel bring her awesome young people up here, so glad you guys are with us today. I'm so glad it worked out for them to be here. And before they do, I do want to say that I know this song was appropriate for a lot of you because I know some of the things you've been walking through just the last few days. And however you interpret the literalness of Scripture, that whole concept of walking on the water is something we all can relate to. And I know the Christians are here today, but Fro is still in the hospital. He, he's very positive and not like to say a lot about it, but he had what should have been a routine surgery to remove some scar tissue. And then because of some dehydration, it's sort of, everything is connected in your body. It kind of set off these other issues with him. I spent a little time with him again yesterday, and I was there when his doctor's a hoot. The guy is so funny, but he's had to have dialysis 4 times, and but they believe that's going to be the last one. And it's interesting because Eldridge is also in the hospital. Is he still in? Because he's out. I haven't talked to him for a couple of days, but among other issues, his issue was dehydration. Paulette mentioned it to me last week, and I said, make sure he's hydrated enough. That's why I posted something yesterday. In winter months, it's easy to let that slide because you're not hot, so you don't drink a lot of stuff, but you can't mess with hydration. I just heard that word several times. And while Eldridge was in the hospital, his father passed away. So I don't know if y'all have had a service yet or not. It was Saturday. Was he able to come in for it? Oh, he was. Okay. I haven't talked to him for a couple of days. I've done, I might not officially be called a pastor still, but I'm pastoring a whole lot. I've been in the hospital a lot. One reason I check in when I go to visit people in the hospital is so many people will inbox me to say, do you know so-and-so's in the hospital? And it's my way of saying, yes, I'm aware of it. Yes, I've seen them, thanks for caring about it. But, I want you to know they're being looked after. And some of you haven't seen Patty in a while because her mom has come back to live with her. And Patty texted me and she said, I wasn't going to bother you, but mom's back in the hospital. And I think she's talking about wanting to, she's tired of suffering. So she needs to see you. So I went to see her day before yesterday. And So I was kind of feeling her out. I said, Dorothy, what exactly do you want? She says, well, I just want to get out of here. So Patty and I looked at each other like out of here, out of here. So I want to get out of the hospital and feel better and go to rehab. But I was like, oh, okay. We're just trying to get on the page with you. Just want to make sure, because I don't want to, if she's not ready for that, I don't want to suggest it, but I'm just trying to, I was brought here under the assumption that, okay, just whatever. And Patty also has her 93-year-old aunt living with her. So, keep her in your prayers. But everybody's going to be fine. Your dad's going to be fine. Your dad's going to be fine. We're all going to get through it. And not only that, I know, I read some of the things that you post, and I read between the lines. And I know some of you have gone, not necessarily through physical things, but you've gone through some stuff recently. And I get it. Believe me, I've had a couple of quiet days, my own self, if you know what I mean. There's some days where you're like, that saying, if you don't have something good to say, don't say anything at all. I think I'm just going to stay quiet a couple of days, because there's nothing I can post that people aren't going to read between the lines and think I'm meaning something that I may not be meaning. And I got things to work out with people that I'm working out. But in the meantime, I don't want to get in Facebook wars with them. So, but I just want you to know, I feel you and I pray for you. And it's interesting because we're all so positive and so motivated toward recovery that, when something does happen, we don't know what to say about it. It's like, do I admit it? Do I whatever? Well, yeah. As a matter of fact, Ernie and Avery aren't here today because they'll be here for the movie, but their grandbaby's being dedicated, so they had to go down for that service today. And Ken's on call. That's why he's not here. And I think Ken hates missing it more than I hate missing it. He's just like so upset that he can't be there. But anyway, he'll be back next week. But Avery and I, we had our little staff meeting this week, and we were talking about some things that were going on. I said, the thing is, when that whole compassion piece sort of figures into the namaste concept, not only is it that which is sacred in me honors that which is sacred in you, but that which has been hurt in me honors that which has been hurt in you. So even though our situations might be entirely different, the thing that I've gone through that's made me real recognizes that you've been through some stuff. You could just tell it. Somebody even have to tell you their whole story. You just sort of innately know, wow, you've been through it, haven't you? But the good news is we got out of it. This is Black History Month, and that's why Jewel's going to bring her kids up to do whatever they want to do today. And I think they're signing to a song. Is it one song or two songs? Okay. And that's great. That's one reason we're going to see Selma this afternoon. I told you I need to go see some African Americans because I'm usually the only white guy in the theater for one of these movies. And while everybody is out loud saying, I hate white people, I'm like, oh. On behalf of the white community, I hate it too. If I could get in a time machine and go back and change it, God knows I would, but please don't hurt me. And so I'm walking in with y'all today because, I have been shot at this theater. So, I like... I'm just saying. I mean, I came back, but Black History Month is important. And a week from Saturday, we'll be going over to the King Center. And my granddaughters are going to come with us, as Sophia calls them. I want to see where Martin Luther the King was born. Okay, the King is his name. But I was thinking about last year, we were still doing the communion brunches, and I had the girls, I had taken them out to Covington, and Christina was supposed to meet me in the parking lot, and she was running late. Can you imagine your sister running late? I can't even get my head around that. And that's a Swilly joke. We tell everybody else be there at 2:00. We tell her be there at 12, and then she'll be there at 3. But I had the girls in there, and I think we had just seen the Mandela movie, and so we were talking about that. And Olivia was crashed out on the couch. Sophia had her back to me on the other side of the room. She was coloring. I didn't think she was listening to what I was saying, but I was talking about how I do believe Black History Month is a valid thing. It's important. And so she got up and walked across the room and was tugging on my jacket. I thought she was telling me she had to go to the bathroom, and I said, "Sweetie, what do you need?" I was that tone of voice, like, don't don't bother Poppy while he's in this mode. And she said, Poppy, you forgot to mention Harriet Tubman. I said, oh, okay, thank you. I'm surprised you were even listening to me. And my little first grade granddaughter, even made that connection. So it's important that younger generation learns these things and knows some of the struggle. And in a few minutes, Man's going to come up. Do you go by Eldridge now, right? I can't not call you Man. But he's going to come up in a minute. Before he does, Miss Jewel's been with us for many, many years and is part of our family. And she does this great ministry with teaching kids sign language. And if you know anything about sign language, it's not just for the deaf. It's a beautiful mode of communication. It has a lot of theological roots to it. Like when you look at some of the God words, it's very interesting, the signs for them. And she's been able to travel some and do things at different schools. And so I'm so blessed that she on this month had a time to come share with us. So Ms. Jewel, if you'll come bring those awesome young people up with us and get set up, whatever you want to say about it, we will be so honored to have you. What do you need? Do you need the mic here or what? You don't need the mic? You don't need the mic? Oh, it speaks for itself? All right, good. Well, and how should I introduce you guys? Are the what? Washington Street Community Center. We're glad that you're here. I'm shaking your hand. Glad you're here. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Thank you for being here. Ladies and gentlemen, the Washington Street Community Center.
That one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
I have a dream that one day the sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream that children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. This will be the day when all of us children will be able to sing with new meaning. From every mountainside, let freedom reign. And when this happens, when we allow freedom to reign, I have a dream.
From every village
I have a dream.
and every hamlet,
I have a dream.
every state and every
We
city,
will speed up that day when all of us children join hands and sing. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. This is our moment. This is our time. Choosing hope over fear. At last we can say, I have a dream. I have a dream. A dream coming true today.
Excellent. Thank you, you guys. Thank you, thank you, thank you, and thank you. Wow. Excellent. I love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you, Miss Jewel. You rock. Our outreach this month is made, and I'm going to let Emmanuel, Eldridge, Mr. Washington, tell you what that acronym is and what he's doing. That is what we're doing this month. And he brought, you did bring product with you, right? So he's got his books out there on the table, and it's a really good book. I wrote the foreword to it, so I have a vested interest in it myself. Would you please welcome young Eldridge Washington? Come on.
Good morning, metron. Metron, how we doing today, people? Well, first of all, I just want to thank Bishop for allowing me to come. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Eldridge Washington. Since we're all family, just call me man. Man. Make sure you say it with two N's. One N is an expression. Two is a great man. So that's me. Yeah, so Paula is my mother. So I told him to give me a time limit because you know us Washingtons, we talk. First of all, it's an honor to be here. For those that don't know, MADE started, this whole vision, this whole idea started in 2008, my senior year of high school. It was under the leadership of Church in the Now, and me and Judah, wherever he stepped out to, me and Judah, we were working in the youth group. We're doing a lot of things. One thing I love about Church in the Now, they empower the youth. It wasn't a church service where we just came and we listened. No, it was our church service. We ran it. We did the worship. We did the sound. We did everything. And in doing that, truly my leadership ability went to another level under Church and Now. So I just want to thank you for that, Bishop, and being the cornerstone to my vision that you are. So what MADE is an acronym for Motivated Adults Developing Excellence. We are a leadership development program for middle and high school students. And in that, we do mentoring with a core focus on positive community engagement. We truly believe if you develop strong leaders, you will develop stronger communities. And the youth are our future. That's why we focus on the youth. And we've been doing this since 2008. 2008, I started in high school. It's 2015 now. I ain't gave up yet. So I think I'm gonna hold on to it. And so I want to talk about this. This is the book. It's called Become Made. It's a lifestyle. Tagline, how to live a good life by building great relationships. So the whole basis of this book is when we really start developing this organization, the vision kept developing. And I would just get people say, oh, I want to get involved. I want to come volunteer. And then I was like, this is not really one of those organizations. You come volunteer one time and you feel good and you go back. No, this is an organization where we really challenge you. We challenge you to go back to your community. What do you see in your community? Is there an issue that you want to change? Is there something that you want to bring together? Do you want to bring more unity? And we truly challenge the youth and empower them to do that in their community. The tagline has become a lifestyle because that's what MADE is. To be a motivated adult developing excellence is someone that is passionate or purpose-filled life who wants to develop excellence not only in your grades, in your families, in your communities, and all of the relationships that you have. And you can only do that by surrounding yourself by positive people. If you ask me, look around, look to the person to your left, look to the person to your right, look behind you, look in front of you. This is what community looks like. A group of beautiful people. We're not here by age. We're not here by gender. We're not here by race. We're here just because we all love and we want to give back to our community. And Metron is the definition of community. And that's what MADE is trying to do in our community every day. So I really encourage you all to visit our website, becomemade.org. If you want to get involved, we're always looking for mentors. If you are a student,
I would love for you to come and just challenge you to be greater and better. I would like to be my sister right here to stand up. This is my first test dummy. So before anybody else trusted me with their kids, my mom trusted me with them, and I think she's doing pretty good. So again, if you want to get involved, check our website out, www.becomemade.org. Also, we're on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, Instagram, Kick, Snapchat, all that good stuff at The Made Movement. So thank you so much. I'm going to be here today and next week. Unfortunately, I won't be here the next week after for prior engagement. So I have product. If you want to come purchase the book, talk to me more about it. Let's do it. Thank you so much.
Good job. Good job. Proud of both of you. Are you about to move to China? Is that what I heard? When are you going? What are you going to be doing in China? Teaching? And you were in Bolivia before, right? Ecuador. Okay. Well, you trying to knock out all the nations one by one? I should have had you come and said that in the mic. That's amazing. I hope you all heard that. She wants to become globally marketable. I was scared of you, girl. That's awesome. Again, give them a hand. Washington's up. You know what your mom, I won't tell you everything she said, but you know your mom said if she'd known her kids are going to turn out as good as they did, she'd have had 12 instead of 6. I won't tell you the rest of what she said because it's unrepeatable. Right. Absolutely. Avery just texted me, said the movie starts at 1:25, so we should have plenty of time if you want to grab a bite somewhere, or if you just want to wait and get some popcorn. And you'll just have to get the tickets on your own. It's not a group event, so we'll see if anybody wants. Have any of you? Some of you, you've already seen it, have you? I know Tony and Wayne have already seen it. So we will do that this afternoon. I just speak in this atmosphere. Let there be light. We're talking this month about prayer, intention, and manifesting your best self, or manifesting your best life. And I've been around prayer my whole life. You know, we used to call Wednesday night service our prayer meeting, and everything was based and motivated toward prayer. And then when the charismatic movement came and the Word of Faith movement, we learned a lot more. There's a lot more teaching about prayer, nearly to the point that it became legalistic, nearly, about intercession and the way you intercede. And, you know, I rode and surfed every one of those waves that came along. I don't know if any of you, Lana may have been a part of that. I don't know if you were that far back, but we used to meet at the church every morning at 6 o'clock. And I did that for years. And, you know, I'm not even real. Well, that's not true. I don't really say I'm not a morning person. If I don't have to get up, I don't. But if I do, I can. It's not like I'm not functionable. And for a long time, I did that. And there was validity to it. I don't think it was a total waste. But I also question a lot about what exactly prayer is. And then when I started reading some more of the laws of attraction stuff, I thought, wow, that really sounds, a lot of that resonates with me more than some of the things I've heard about prayer. And I will explain to you why. And let me tell you this little thing that happened last night. I believe I don't have to say, I swear this really happened. I mean, if I tell you something happened, it happened. I don't just make stuff up. I might make it sound a little better than it actually was, but I don't just make it up. But I was already in this mode last night, and I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about today. And I was about to send the production team my outline, so I was already thinking about it. And I thought, I'm going to run to the store real quick. I had the night before I went out, stayed out in Eatonton, and we had dinner with Ken's sons and Just had a great time. But I overate a little bit, and I'm not used to. I haven't been eating like that, and I just kind of ate what I wanted to, and I ate later than I normally did, and had a lot of caffeine, and it really caught up with me. I had really bad heartburn, and it's way too much information. You're like, listen, we believe you, and I know there's a point to the story. And I've learned now, because if you have intense heartburn, it feels like a heart attack. And so I've learned now, like I went online and thought, I'm sure I'm not having a heart attack. This is just, and as they were explaining what happens, and plus I laid down too quick after, you're not supposed to just eat and then go lay down. And I did. And just all those things, everything that I know not to do, I did. And guess what? There's a reason why they tell you not to do that. So whatever. So I got through the day and it was fine. And last night I was thinking, man, I'm still having some heartburn. So I'm going to go to the store and get, I was going to get something. No big deal. I don't want to go through another night like this. No big deal. So I go to the store. I was going to get 3 things. I got the whatever medicine I got. I got some of those Alka-Seltzer chewables, which are good. And I got some almond milk, because if you ever have heartburn, almond milk is alkaline in it, and it really will shut it down. And I got some Cheerios, multigrain Cheerios, three items. Now, what's interesting is earlier in the week, I had been thinking about, y'all hear it too, right? Okay, sometimes when I hear things, I just want to check and make sure everybody else hears it. But earlier in the week, I was thinking, you know what? I really want some Raisinets. I just hadn't had Raisinets in a long time, and I had a real hankering for them. And I actually was going to go to a movie because Ken's on call. I thought, I'll just go to a movie. I'm going to get some Raisinets. I'm just going to enjoy it. But I just dismissed the thought. No big deal. Now, the one thing they say about in the laws of attraction is detachment. It's like you put the intention out there, and then you don't overthink it, which is really the contrary to what we used to hear about prayer. It's like, man, you pray a thing through, you bombard the gates. And that's really what I want to talk about today. But this is what's interesting. And I can't help but think the universe is trying to tell me something about what I'm talking about today. So I go over here to Publix, 3 items. I have 3 items. I didn't even get a basket. I'm holding them in my hand, 3 items. I went to that little 10 items or less checkout thing. There's nobody else in line. The guy's just standing there. There's nothing else on the counter. There's nobody else's groceries. It's just a blank counter. I go in, put my 3 items down. He rings it up. I walk out. I get in the car. I was going to open up the Alka-Seltzer chewables and pop a couple of them. And there is a ginormous bag of Raisinets in there. Now, if there had been other people in line, I would say, well, I guess I got somebody else's thing. And I even checked the thing to see if he charged me for it, and he did not. There were 3 items on there. There was no charge for it. I didn't ask for it. There was nobody else in line. And if it had been something else, if it had been like, Midol or something, I'd be like, that's somebody else's. That is not mine. But the fact that I had just within the last few hours had the thought, wow, I'd really like some Raisinets. And then I just didn't think about it again. And I thought, I probably don't need any with the heartburn. It's probably just as well. And then I go, and there's nobody else around. There's nobody in front of me, nobody behind me. There's nobody else's leftover stuff there. And I don't know what to make of it. Like today, I ate a few of them last night. And it was fine. But this morning I was leaving, and I was looking at this. It's the jumbo pack of Raisinets. So I'm still trying to discern what that means. If nothing else, it definitely means something out there is telling me, stay on the right track. You're telling people the truth, and this is just a little signpost from the other side to say this stuff really works. Isn't that strange? Of all things, a big bag of Raisinets, and there's no charge for it. Like if he had charged me for it, I could have thought, well, maybe it was in somebody else's basket or whatever, but there was no charge. They're like the magic raisin. I should have brought them today, pass them out. But this is what I want to concentrate on today. I'm actually titled this part, The Psychology of Prayer, and here's one. When I was growing up in the Pentecostal church, I'm going to show you a verse of scripture in a minute, but when I was growing up, we believed in divine healing. We believed that healing did not pass away with the apostles, but also not everybody got healed. So we kind of had the idea that healing is the will of God sometimes. Okay. Well, then when the faith people came along and sort of added their spin on Pentecostalism, their take on it was, no, it's always God's will to heal. And, you know, they sort of brought another element of theology in that, you know, by his stripes we were healed, and call those things which are not as though they are. So we learned a lot in that movement about, you know, don't be moved by the symptoms in your body, and you keep speaking the word of, and I haven't totally abandoned that. And yet I have seen people who stood on the word, confessed the word, did everything they were supposed to do, and did not get results and still died. I mean, I've seen people confess the word and watch them as they flatline. So I'm thinking, all right, well, we're still not getting the whole counsel of God on this. Because this is the main thing I want you to hear today. And I used to even think this as a kid when people would say, well, we prayed for Sister so-and-so, but she didn't get healed, so I guess it wasn't God's will. Even as a kid, I would think, well, if it's not God's will to heal, then why did we even pray then? If God's got this sovereign thing locked in, that some people are going to get something and some other people aren't, then why even mess with that? Isn't it just a waste of time? Shouldn't you just say, well, whatever's going to be is going to be? And if you really followed that, I mean, you know, I am known to overthink things, but if you really follow that, you think, well, then why should you even take medicine then? I mean, if it's whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And if you're trying to fight the will of God, I mean, you know, I've given this stuff a lot of thought, because I can tell you this, over the years, I know what it's like to pull up to an IC unit and knowing that somebody in there is just minutes away from dying, and they're surrounded by loved ones, and they're expecting you to walk in and have some answers. You know, it makes you think about these things. I remember when I was in the denomination, sometimes if somebody from out of town had come to Emory or Crawford Long or something, and their pastor from their Assembly of God church couldn't be there, they would call me and say, I've got a family that's at this hospital. Can you go, you know, minister to them, whatever. I used to do that all the time. And sometimes would have to walk into a room full of people that I had never met before and tell them that their mother just died or something. And you, let me tell you, that'll make you want to get out of the ministry. I've been cussed out. I've been swung at, because people have this rush of anger, and, you know, you're like, don't shoot the messenger. I don't even know you. I'm just trying to tell you, you know, I'm trying to be here for you through this transition. So people are trying to figure out, you know, what do I do with this? And then even now I will get messages from some people, even people in the ministry sometimes, even people who are kind of in my flow even, who will say, I'm having a hard time not being mad at God right now. I don't understand why this thing happened, or why, you know, after all I've done for the ministry or whatever, why have things worked out better? You're like, Bishop, I thought this is going to be a positive message. You're bringing the room down. No. We've got to examine this, because I know we're trying to get into another level of truth, and I'm trying to understand it myself. I don't believe you will think the raising net thing was silly. To me, it was, hang in there, keep pushing through, because you got to figure out, how does it work? How is the effective desire work? Now, I could tell you, I have had my fair share of disappointment. I mean, I could say, man, you know, I was in Conyers all those years and that city never received me. Or I could have all kind of issues about any number of things. And I've never thought to blame God for anything that didn't work out in my life the way I visualize it. That's just somehow I never got that gene. I always thought God was the good guy. And that if something happened, it was like, well, either I didn't do something right, or maybe it just is what it is. Some things are just the way they are. Like, you know, if you're going to have a provocative ministry, then you can't be really surprised if people are provoked by it. That's not, you know, that's like, there's no point in being upset about that. Like, I remember one time, I've shared this with you before, one time years ago, I was watching TV, and at the time I was real close with several of the guys that were on TBN like every night. And I was watching it and I thought, why don't these guys ever give me a hookup? Why don't they ever invite me on their show? Why don't they, these guys are very connected. Why don't they say, hey, I've got a friend, you need to have him on and I need to be the next guy. And I heard the voice in me say, is that what you want? You want to be on TBN? And it was sort of like handing me the menu. Do you really want that? And I said, well, no, not really. I'm not really like them. Like the voice said to me, you want to do telethon and go in there and raise money and sing with Mike Perky and all this. I mean, really, is that what you want? I'm like, well, no. And so it's like that voice that I believe is the Holy Spirit, that voice always makes me tell the truth. And I said, no, I guess I really don't. So I'm lying. I'm sitting here lying, saying, I wish they do something, because I really don't. And if I wanted to be more connected, I would be more like them. I would say certain things or not say certain things that I know they either say or don't say that endear them to a certain strata of the audience that I'm not interested in connecting with anyway. So, at this point in my life, I've parted with illusions and I take full responsibility for my life. And if anything, Sammy took us to dinner the other night and he said, do you realize how amazing it is, as many transitions as you've been through, that you still have a following, that you have people? He said, because I came from church, and I know what church people are like. And the fact that you still have people following you he said, don't you think that's amazing? I said, I think about it every day. Are you kidding me? I think about it all the time. And so I don't have I'm not mad at God, but I also understand there are people who have had terrible things happen to them and they don't know what to do with, what do I do about my spouse died or this or whatever? And how do I not be angry at God? And this brings me to this one verse of scripture. This has been quoted ad infinitum, but I never really thought about it as much until this week. And let me show you. This is out of the Amplified Bible. You're very familiar with it. It's Romans 8:31, and it just says, King James says, if God be for us, who can be against us? What he says here in the Amplified is, what then shall we say to all this? Or what should we say to these things? The previous verses, he's saying, death and life and all these things that happen to us in the human experience. What shall we say to these things? And the response is, if God is for us, who can be against us? Who can be our foe if God is on our side? That, if God, how many gospel songs have been written? If God be for us, who can be against us? And that's always a crowd pleaser. If you're wanting to get a reaction from the crowd, it's like, if God be for us, who can be against us? Because we all want to believe God is for us. But now there's a very important question in that phrase. It's, if God is for us. Because not everybody really believes that God's on their side. I'm telling you, I counsel people all the time who say, well, if God's so good, why did my child die? Or why did this happen? Or whatever. So even with the petitions and that sort of thing, it's the idea that, wow, maybe I'm having to convince God to do something good for me. And if I really believe that God is this benevolent, all-seeing, all-powerful, all-loving, all-knowing God, then why doesn't he just look after things better? And if Jesus said there's not a sparrow that falls that the Father doesn't notice it, and even the hairs on your head are numbered, then why have I got to be constantly reminding him to take care of me? Shouldn't that just intrinsically be in his paternal nature, that he would look after me? And then there's this whole other idea, James says you have not because you ask not. And I've taught that for years. I'm like, well, God doesn't have access into your life until you ask him. And so there's that whole piece. But haven't you seen things that happen in your life that were really good that you didn't ask for? And you're like, well, where did that come from? So I'm really sort of opening all this up, because you have to think about, why do I pray? When Judah was little, we bought him a swing set. And I did a teaching on prayer one time, and I talked about this because I decided I'm going to put this together. I'm going to be a dad. I'm going to put it together. I mean, how hard can it be? So I mean, it was a big swing set, and I did okay. Finally, at the end of it, I had John come in and help me with some of it, but most of it I did all by myself, and took great pride in like, wow, I'm putting this thing together, and I'm, because I'm not one to read the instructions. I want it done. And now that I'm married to somebody who can fix and do anything, it's like that part of my brain doesn't even function now. I'm just like, because he's into it and he loves it, and we buy something at Target and we get home in 20 minutes, it's already put together. I'm like, much better. But I remember I'd finally gotten to the end of it. It was the part where you connect the top to the side. It's all done, and somehow I had used the wrong size screw, and it wouldn't connect, and I didn't know where, because there was thousands of screws in there. I'm like, oh my God. And I'm sure I'd used the wrong one. And I remember that was back when I would pray about everything. And I was like, Father, in the name of Jesus, I believe this is going to work. And it wouldn't work. And then I was so over the edge with it because I'd spent so much time on it. Now it wasn't going to be able to work. And every few minutes, he's like, is it ready yet, Daddy? I'm like, not yet. Daddy's working on it. I'm like, come on. And, and in my teaching on it, I said, man, finally you're like, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep, God is great, God is good. That is, Hail Mary, full of grace. I'm like thinking of our Father which art in heaven, Kumbaya. What other prayer? God grant me the serenity. I'm thinking of every possible prayer I've ever heard. And finally, I'm like, if there is a God, please, and then I'm like, clearly there's no God, apparently. And, now I look back and think, why didn't you just go to the store and get the right screw? And, which I guess I did, because y'all played on it for years. So it must have gotten fixed. But the point is when it's you up against insurmountable obstacles, and as much as you believe in self-reliance, you're going to go for the praying to the higher power piece. But then you feel like you're having to convince the higher power. Do you not realize how bad I feel? Do you not know how long I've suffered with this thing? Do you not realize my situation? And so those are real things that people think. I remember Kenneth Hagin did a teaching years ago on intercession. He said there was a woman who prayed about something, and she said, God, if I could help you as easy as you could help me with the situation, I'd do it. And she got whatever it was, she got results. So there's this whole thing about, well, how do you approach God? But the idea is, do I believe he's for me? That's the big psychological question. Like, if I approached one of you to ask for something, I'm assuming that you are predisposed to be on my side. Even if you couldn't do it, you would at least be concerned about it or helpful or something. I don't assume that you're my enemy. But if you have to go to someone and approach them not fully believing that they're on your side, and that brings a whole lot to it. There are people, I've told you this many times, the one thing I've noticed in 43, this Friday will be my 43rd anniversary. Saturday will be my 43rd Valentine's Day is. And in all the years that I've counseled with people, the one common denominator that I've seen that has kept people from manifesting like they should is feelings of unworthiness that they've picked up, probably from authority figures or from society in general, but they've interpreted it as this is the way God feels about me. This whole thing about Paul saying we're alienated from God in our minds. That's a whole other thing. I was called recently, and I don't think I'm violating any confidence, because there's no 6 degrees of separation for this. There's a lot of hurting people out there, I'll tell you. And even that little video that I put on this week, you would be amazed at the inbox messages I got from people who it's too risky for them to like it where everybody could see it. But I mean, I'm amazed at that little thing that I put on there had such profound effect, even from foreign countries. It's amazing. And so I really try to be careful how I cover people in situations. But I got a call recently from a pastor who really believes that he is transsexual. Well, that's a whole other thing. I mean, the T and the G are very far away from each other in LGBT. That, like, I don't judge it, but I don't understand it any more than a straight man would. It's like, that's not, I've never had gender conflict. They're very different things. And so this guy pastors a Pentecostal church, old school Pentecostal church. He's married, has children. And I said, if you come out, you won't survive it in that world. I mean, I said, I lost a lot, but you, in the world you're in, you're going to have to come up with a plan B. And he said, yeah, I know that. And I said, now, why are you contacting me? Because that's not my issue. And he said, well, I know, I've read your story, and I know what it's like to know something about yourself that is going to alienate you from your people. And how did you handle that? And I said, okay, well, that I can understand. And I felt, and this is a new place in my brain, and I believe y'all will understand this. But as I was talking to him, I said, all right, I'm going to pray for you, because his big issue is, I've already told my wife, and I'm in the transition. I said, well, you need to tell your kids. They don't need to hear it from somebody else. They need to hear it from you. But his number one thing was, I think I'm going to be lost. I'm afraid I'm going to go to hell. I said, no, let me, if I can assure you of anything, that's, if you really believe you are female, then God accepts that. I mean, I'm telling you, you're wasting energy in being upset about God thinking some of that, because I'm telling you, he does not. And so I really felt quickened by the Spirit. I said, what is your real name? And when I said real name, I mean, what is your name as female? And he hesitated a second, then he told me, and I said, all right, let me pray for you. So when I prayed for her, I used the female pronoun. I used her name. God, I know that I won't say her name in case there was somebody that might figure it out. I'll say Sally. That wasn't the name, but I said, Sally, the struggle that she is going through, and her main concern is, what do you think about her? I said, before anything else, I need her to know that you love her and your love is unconditional, and the things that people obsess over is not what you care about. And it was really, I could tell it was kind of a turning point for me, even because there's a part of me that just says, I don't really understand that part of it. So I don't know how to minister to you on that. I mean, there's other places in town that might be more conducive to that sort of ministry. But the fact is truth, and to be able to minister truth to someone, whatever their situation is. But I'm bringing that up to say, this pastor that called me, and I will out of courtesy refer to her in the feminine. As she called me, her greatest concern was, is God going to be for me? Let me tell you something. God knows everything about you. God knows stuff about you that you don't even know about you. One of our greatest examples of this whole idea of God just being crazy about him and them ticking everybody else off. You think about David. His mentor was Saul, who spent years trying to kill him. That whole thing, I mean, I know he hates it when I bring it up. David on the other side. Really, you're going to bring up the Bathsheba thing again? I have to, David, sorry. But, not only did he didn't just commit adultery, he stole his best friend's wife and had his best friend murdered. And his best friend was so loyal. What was the story about how David had said the husbands not to be with their wives until the battle was over? And was it Uriah? Is that his name? He slept at the door. He wouldn't even go to sleep with his wife, and he came home from battle. So it wasn't just his good friend, but he was like a really good guy. He's like, real integrity and really served David. They're like, oh, David, yikes. Wow. We're living in a world now where we're finding out, wow, Bill Cosby isn't necessarily Cliff Huxtable. I'm like, we love Cliff Huxtable, but if the things they've there's been a lot of smoke around that. Wow, if that is the case, and I've heard lots of comedians say, Bill Cosby, stop telling me to pull up my pants, because that was his big deal. Is, what's wrong with the black community is sagging pants. They're like, you need to pull up your pants. Is what yeah. And, there's a part of you that thinks, wow, really, you're going to, if it's true, Bill Cosby and all these women, really, you're going to set yourself as the moral compass of the black community and go around and lecture everybody about what's wrong with our culture. Like, wow. Oh, I can tell I hit a nerve. You're like, don't you mess with Bill Cosby. Like, oh, look, I love Bill Cosby. Believe me, I hate it. I grew up watching Fat Albert, and are you kidding? I used to watch I Spy back in the 60s. So you ain't going to sell me on Bill Cosby. I'm just saying, we're finding out that not everybody necessarily is who they project to be. So we create this persona of this is who everybody expects me to be. But if they really knew who I was, they might not accept me. Well, the thing about God is God does know it all. He knew it before you got it. Well, David, did all this kind of it's like with David, you're like, wow, are you just like trying to make everybody in the world hate you? And David's like, I'm a man after God's own heart. I always got the feeling that God was just like, wow, what are you going to do? You can't help but love him, and the things that most people, if I had told you that somebody did all that and got up to speak, you would have a hard time getting around it. You'd be like, wow, really? Should we really have somebody like that? But on some level, everybody is like that. Oh, did y'all just get religious on me? But it's so easy. Like I was, even since I'm mentioning names, I was watching this Brian Williams thing this week. And I thought, wow, how, where he says he was shot down. And as it turns out, these guys that were actually on the copter are like, no, you weren't. We were on that. And that you were, I wanted to go, Brian, it would have been a good story if you had just said we were in the following helicopter and the one in front of us was shot down. Well, that's still the truth. And that's still a good story. Did you have to, did you not know there were people but when I hear that, I'm like, oh, there, but for the grace of God, make sure that I tell everything that actually, that's why I say, if I tell you it happened, it really did happen. I can't think of any time I've just said something that didn't happen, that happened. But then you look at this guy and you're like, wow, I don't know how he's going to save his career. Because that's, the strength of a newscaster is credibility. And so now you tell that, and now you, like Wendy Williams said this week, she said, now I hear him say the sky's blue, I'm going to go out and look myself and go, whereas before I would have taken his word for it. Well, when your whole thing is based on credibility and then you've hurt that, now you got problems. So to me, I see that as everything that can't be shaken will be shaken. I don't have time to finish it all this week, but let me show you. These are just what I believe we need to look at. Like, here's all the factors that are determining what we're attracting to us. Because I'm telling you, I don't fully understand that laws of attraction thing. But when I pulled that big bag of Raisinets out of my grocery bag, I thought, well, there's something to it. And the reason I'm saying that is, if we're visualizing this person sitting on a throne out on the other side of the Milky Way that we're trying to convince to do something good for us, and we're not totally sure that he/it, whatever you call, however you visualize God, is on our side, you've got to, no wonder you're not getting more manifestation. You got to believe the world's on your side. You got to believe the universe is on your side. You've got to believe God's on your side. You can't go through life assuming everybody's out to get you, everybody's trying to get something out of you, everybody's trying to hurt you, because you're not going to manifest well. You're going to attract a lot of negative stuff to yourself. This is how I saw it in my spirit to write down. First of all, there's the vertical. So the three things we have to acknowledge, however you interpret God, is there's three factors. There's the wisdom of God. Number two, there's the blessing of God. And number three, there's the plan of God. Now, let me tell you why those things factor into how we receive things, how we pray, how we attract things to ourselves. I'm not one of these people that subscribe to the idea of everything happens for a reason. I don't like that, because there are some things that happen, you know, when a child is abused or whatever. I don't like to think there's some major cosmic plan that's making things like that happen. So I reject that idea. What I can agree to is all things work together for good. I do believe that all those cliches like whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Yes, I believe that. I believe, you know, good can come out of anything. I don't want to believe that there's this huge plan for me, that everything is moving me in that direction. I don't want to fully believe that, because if that's the case, then I don't need to work on anything about myself. I just might as well put on autopilot, and whatever's going to happen is going to happen. And the reason some people are very successful is they were destined to be successful, and others weren't, and you just got to suck it up and, you know, deal with it. I don't like the way that makes me feel. That doesn't make me feel empowered as a person. What I do believe is that we're creating what we call the will of God. The fact that God says, you decree a thing and it'll be established unto you. That's why I even said today, this is the day that the Lord enabled us to make. Because if you just believe, well, it's just God doing it all, then what's the purpose of prayer? You might as well just put it in neutral, and whatever's going to happen, just, you know, be happy about it. There are some things that, however you believe in the benevolence of God, there's some things that are just happened that are undeserved blessings. The wisdom of God, that's the part that I do like, that idea that there's a higher power working on my behalf that may not give me everything that I think I want, because I may not want it. You ever hear that Garth Brooks song, I Thank God for Unanswered Prayers? He talks about he meets this girl that he had prayed to marry, and he meets her later on. He's so happy he didn't. I can tell you this, there's things I've prayed for before that I'm glad I don't have them now. So here for the wisdom of God. You know what I mean? It's like with a parent, there's things you think your kids think they want, and you're like, I know you think you want this, but you really don't. And it's important to talk to your kids that way. Your kids have to know you're on their side. Then the horizontal piece is what others want for you. Number two, what others expect from you. And number three, how others perceive you. Now, this is huge. Like how much of my life is being shaped by what I really want, or by what other people impose on me and want from me and expect from me. To me, one of the best things about aging, and there are some downsides to it, but one of the best things about aging is as you grow up, as you mature, ideally, you are less susceptible to peer pressure. Whereas when you were younger, it meant everything to you. That's why kids sometimes make really bad decisions, because they want to be popular and they want to be accepted. As you get older, if you do it right, you learn, oh, I don't really want that. I don't really like that. And that's one of the best parts of aging, is you finally get to where you realize, this is who I am. This is what I really like. And I don't care if other people like it. I don't care if other people think it's cool or not. Whereas it doesn't, now it doesn't matter. You think about the kids in school that you thought, oh, it matters to me so much that they like me. And now you're like, I could care less what that skinny little kid in 10th grade thought about me. But at the time when you were their peer, it was huge. And we all want to be accepted, and we all want to be popular, and we all want to be liked. But then when you realize that being liked is at the expense of your own, self-respect, then you part from that. One quote I really like is when people, I forgot who said it, they said, when people say you've changed, it usually means you've stopped behaving like they want you to behave. You know what was interesting to me about, and I said it in this little video this week, because I was using that quote I used last week by Deepak Chopra, that everybody's doing the best they can at their level of consciousness. And I went through the thing, I said, when I really started preaching what some people call universal salvation or ultimate reconciliation, I said, there were a lot of people that loved me, but they just could not transition with me on that. They're like, I love you, but you can't not preach hell, and you've got to have an altar call and that sort of thing. So I said, no hard feelings. I understand they were operating at their level of consciousness. It is what it is. I said, then when I came out, you know, God knows there was lots of people that said, wow, you've been my pastor for 25 years plus, but I can't have a gay pastor. And I'm like, you've always had a gay pastor. You didn't know it. But ain't nothing new. Just new to you. But and I said, you know, no hard feelings. I mean, some people, that's not their level of consciousness and they can't go there. And, you know, they're legalistic about certain verses of scripture, which frankly, I think is ridiculous because there's so many other things the Bible says that they never even pay attention to. But if that's, you know, if that's where you are, fine. There's no point in arguing with that. You know, it is what it is. And then when I decided my season in Conyers and Covington was over, there were people that said, you know, they could not imagine perceiving me outside of a church context. And I said, and no hard feelings. I mean, there's some people that, you know, that's your level of consciousness. And I said, what is interesting to me, though, is most of the people who were the most supportive of Church of the Now were the first ones to be on board with me about Metron, which was it. That was very unusual in a good way. You know, it's not like you hated Church of the Now. Even when Man was talking today about what Church of the Now was, I am very proud of that. I'm proud that, you know, when I see young people who, of course it was his parents, but Church of the Now, he, as he says, was a huge part of his development. Good. I'm glad we did that. I mean, it makes me feel validated in all that we did for years, especially for young people. But what it says to me is those of you who transitioned with me really know me. You didn't know who you wanted me to be. And even if you had a different idea of me and I said, no, that's the wrong idea, this is who I am, then you were like, okay, well, that's who you are, then we'll go with that. That's awesome if you have that in your life, right? So at a certain point, you have to think, well, how much of my life is me trying to fulfill my parents' dream for me, or a spouse's idea for me, or what my kids want me to be, or what society has told me? And all the people who have done anything, from either if it's a woman or a minority or whatever, they were people who broke out of the mold. We would not be celebrating Martin Luther King if he had cottoned to the idea of, you know, you stay over in your neighborhood and don't come into white world and say your stuff. If he had just, because I'm sure there were other men who said the same things he did. It's just, he said it in a way that it forced white people to have to respond to it. He didn't just keep preaching to the crowd. He got, you know, he's preaching to the world, and he got results because of it. If he had just, you know, I'm sure there were, well, an assassin's bullet tried to shut him up, but still didn't shut him up. They're talking about right now, even with the big statue they have in Washington, now they're wanting to put one at the Georgia Capitol. I thought, wow, you cannot shut a dream down. You know what I mean? It's like, even if you kill him physically, you're not taking Martin Luther King out of it. I mean, he's a part of the consciousness now. So that's bigger. That's what he had tapped into, that speech the night before he was killed. He said, I've already made peace with this. I mean, I may not get there with you to the promised land, but we as a people will get there. Wow. That's he just in that speech, he's already moved into a whole other realm. He just entered like the great cloud of witnesses there, because he's saying, my life doesn't even matter to me anymore. What matters to me is what I had to say. And he, you know, mission accomplished. There's a lot more that needs to be done, but I mean, there's no doubt he made a difference in the world. And there's no doubt that there's nobody in the world that doesn't know him. So part of this thing I'm trying to teach you this week is prayer is not just about trying to get God to take your back pain away. Prayer is about you becoming who you're supposed to be. It's about manifesting your true reality. The reason I'm so protective of the life I have now is I have worked hard for it, but I've also prayed myself into it. I mean, this came through prayer. And I don't mean I was up every morning at 6 o'clock speaking in tongues. I mean, prayer is me saying, I want some raisinets. And then they magically appear in my bag. That sounds crazy to some people, but to me, it's like, well, you really get what you want, which brings me to the third and final thing, and then I'll wrap it up, is the internal, not just the vertical and the horizontal. And this is the most important. There's number one, what you think you want and what you think you need. Number two is what you really want and what you really need. And number three is what you don't know that you want and what you don't know that you need. Now, that's really important. Any of you that are losing weight right now know that deprivation doesn't make you lose weight. What you have to do is give your body what it really wants. And basically, and if you do it with isogenics or whatever, basically, if your body gets enough protein in the morning, you will not crave a lot of the carbs and stuff that you end up, thinking that you want, that you don't really want. You think you want it. But if you give your body what it really needs to function, because you're like a gas tank, you know what I mean? You have to fuel up every morning. Your brain needs protein. You have to have it. And so, I know what it's like that's why I've stopped late night eating, because I get what I need early in the day. So I don't, because I'm still a night owl, but at 2:00 in the morning, I'm not standing there at the refrigerator going, is that it? Nah. And before you know it, you've eaten all this garbage that you didn't even want, because you feel like you're hungry and you're not even really that hungry. To going on a diet it's not going to give you long-term results. Deprivation isn't going to work. There's time, like the other night, I ate what I wanted to eat, and I paid a little bit of a price for it, but it was worth it to me. I thought, no, I want to go out and we're having a good time. Now, does that mean I'm going to do it tonight? No, because I know if you do that, you're going to be up later tonight, and it's not worth it. He ain't worth it, Miss Seeley. Sorry, that's the way my brain works. Let's hold the thought right there, because I know I'm just asking a lot of rhetorical questions. Next week, I want to come in and sort of really talk about it a little more, but I will leave you with this. When we obsess over what does God want, what does God want, what does God want, we don't realize that God is really looking at us saying, what do you want? Like, for instance, if you believe that there is this one person that you were supposed to marry and there's nobody else in the world that would ever have been right for you, and that and I believe God brings people into our life. I believe God brought Ken to me. He believes God brought me to him. But if you believe that there's this only one person that you could ever be happy with, you end up putting too much responsibility on that other person. And like, I've seen people fall into this trap over the years. They prayed for a spouse, and they got him. And then if the spouse wasn't everything they had visualized, they said, I think I married the wrong person. No, you married a human being. And it's not a mixed marriage, because you are a human being. And I'm sure there are things that they have to negotiate and decide, can I live with this? Just like you have to with them. That's just called relationships. But when people put it out in this, I remember years ago, somebody used to come to the church, somebody I loved very much, but he was single, and he had that was back when we were telling everybody, make a list of what you want. He had a list that was so long of what he wanted in a spouse that when he presented to me, I said, this person doesn't exist. I mean, you've specified this so much. God would have to make this superhuman, this person he's never created before that would supersede Adam and Eve. And then, no offense, I'm not sure she would marry you. And I haven't heard from him in years, but the last time I saw him, he was still single. Of course you're still single. Because that's not the way the real, I can tell you this, I believe I'm with the person who's perfect for me, but that's because of a lot of things. And that's not just because God has it locked in that you have this one soulmate that you're going to connect with. I would say this again. I would say this if Debbie was sitting here. I don't think you have one soulmate in your life. You find one person that you commit to, but there's a lot of people that you have connections with on lots of levels. And don't read more into that. Bishop's like, do you hear what Bishop said today? If you can't be with the one you love the one you with. It's not what I said. Don't you put that evil on me, Ricky Bobby. What I'm saying, but honestly, that's why there is a lot of infidelity, because people find it's not just about the physical. Sometimes people find somebody that meets a certain emotional need of them or whatever, and I'm not justifying it, because these people pay a terrible price for it. It ends relationships, but it is understandable, because not everybody, you can't get from one person everything that you need. And if you understand that, now I've transitioned into a teaching on relationship. But there are other things that you appreciate, if nothing else, that somebody has stayed with you through all of your nonsense, and you've built a life with somebody, and you're like, hey, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, we're not perfect, but we're very happy. And I think a lot of the teaching that's going on about prayer in churches like where I came from has created this false sense of what manifestation is supposed to be. Even the whole idea of the promised land, it was not the perfect land, it was the promised land. And people have this idea of, well, when you get to your promised land, everything's going to be okay. It was, go back and read. It was not. They had to go in and fight like nothing had changed. There were still giants in the land. 40 years wasted in the wilderness, and nothing had changed. It wasn't like God got everything ready for them. As a matter of fact, he even said, I'm going to transition you slowly. Remember, he said, I'm going to drive out your enemies little by little so that you can inhabit the land. You're not ready for it yet. So this idea that when you get the promise of God, however you think about God, that everything's going to be okay, that's ridiculous. Like, this is a promised land for me. There aren't 5,000 people here. I'm not sure that's my definition of success anymore. When somebody says, how's Metron doing? I'm like, well, the better question is, how am I doing? I'm really happy, and I love my life, and the people who are there, I'm fulfilling a need for them, and we really like it. And it's a little out of some of their comfort zone, but so be it. I mean, I'm not talking about what I teach, but just, coming to the city. But even that's a good thing. I've had people say, you know what, you've gotten me where I'm not afraid to come to the city. Well, you're welcome. That's good. You shouldn't be afraid. You should enjoy where you live and that sort of thing. So, but to say that it's everything I visualize, well, nothing's everything you visualize, but you can get what you want. And, I'm still contemplating my raisinettes, because I'm like, what exactly does that mean? Because I'm telling you, they came from nowhere. There was nobody else's groceries on that counter. There just was none. So I have to believe, because I had just written this, what you want, what you really want. And what was interesting is I ate a few bites of them, and I thought, they're all right. I mean, they're there if I want to get a couple more this afternoon. But there was a time I was at, I'm finishing this bag off. So even what I wanted was not what I really wanted. But what? Yeah. So those are the things that I'm figuring out. All right, well, what is it possible that really your life is everything you want? And if you wanted more, you would have had more. And not everybody wants to hear that. You're like, oh Lord, don't tell me that. No, that's good news. That means you can, well, then get a grip on your life and pray yourself into the manifestation of what you really want to be. Amen. That's all. Good. Let's all stand. I think I'll maybe just run this a couple more times. And can you quote this one, dear? Yeah, go ahead and run that, if you will. Let's all say it together.
Contributing at Metron is quick and easy. Simply text the amount you'd like to contribute to 404-620-5044. Once you've sent the amount you'd like to give, you will receive a link. Clicking the link will take you to a one-time registration form. This will make the contribution process even easier in the future. Once you've filled out the information form, you will then see a successful registration and donation page. You can now give anytime by simply texting an amount to this number. To set up recurring contributions, log on to visionthenow.com and click Simple Give. We have more information on how to do this available for you in the back of the room. Thank you for your investment in Metron.
And thank you, Rachel. And if you have a check, just make it JESM, and Danny will be back in the back. If you brought cash, just pay it forward, take somebody to lunch, or pick up somebody's movie tab. Ms. Jewel and your awesome kids, thank you again so much for coming. Love you guys. And you are welcome all the time, anytime. Emmanuel will be out at his table. Please pick up his book. All right, the movie starts at 1:25. I don't even know what theater it's in. Is it an 8? Okay. If it's, I don't know how realistic it'll be that we all sit together, so we'll just see how it works out. And I'll find you in there at 1:25 if you want to go. You got time to grab a bite somewhere. Was this worthwhile to you? Are these questions you've asked? Okay. You've got to believe that God is for you, and you got to think about, how am I praying then? If I'm trying to convince God or wear God down, then I don't really believe He's for me. If you love somebody, aren't you thinking all the time, what can I do for them to make they don't even have to ask. You want to bless them. So we're going to get there. We're going to get to understanding this, and it's exciting. I love all this stuff. So I just speak a blessing over you. You're going to have an excellent week. You're blessed when you come in and when you go out. Judah, thank you so much for being here today. You were awesome, as always. He'll be back in a couple of weeks. All of you, you're beautiful. You're well. For those, we continue to pray for the Washington family. Continue to pray for Fro. Fro, we see him well and restored and out of that hospital in the next few hours. You have favor. Good things are coming to you. Good things are happening for you. And you wake up tomorrow saying, this is the day that the Lord has enabled me to make. God bless you. Go in peace.